Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today, oh boy, do I look different. But I am continuing on in my pre-recorded videos since I am indeed out of town this week. And so today what I wanted to talk about was this whole concept of advanced ticket sales and why we need to not only pay attention to them, but why also they, in the end, don't matter as much as many people are trying to make us feel like. Now, it was not too long ago, about a year ago now at this point, almost a year ago, where we had a little movie called Solo: Star Wars Story come out, and all the news media kept on spinning saying this movie is going to make 130, 140 million. Sometimes some numbers were upwards of 150, 160 million dollars for the opening weekend for Solo: Star Wars Story, because it was based purely on the pre-sales, the pre-sale rates, the overall buzz, following social media, following trailer clicks, things like that. Those are the things, those are the factors that oftentimes people look into to determine how good a movie is going to do. The biggest one, the most important one, though, is indeed pre-sale tickets. Now, why is that something that they do, and why do I think that is a foolish endeavor? Well, why do they use it in the first place? If you see the amount of people buying tickets before the movies actually come out, it does give you somewhat of an indication as to, one, how successful your marketing is based on the number of people actually buying tickets on a daily basis all the way up leading to your film. But two, it also gives you an idea of, do you need to possibly market a little bit more? Do you need to release another trailer? Do you need to reach out to certain markets that maybe you weren't reaching to before because the numbers really aren't matching up to where you wanted to be at another point in time? How do they know where they want to be? Well, they can obviously, especially with the MCU, in this case, compare it to other MCU films and see where they were in the similar, at the similar times, see where they were, basically at the same point before its release, with a couple weeks left. Now, with about a week left, just a few days really, this movie's going to be coming out. So what is this headline saying here from comicbook.com? So once again, media shilling it up, trying to spin everything, saying Captain Marvel beating every Marvel movie but Avengers Infinity War in advanced ticket sales in China. Now, the reason why I pointed out this article and the reason why I started off this entire video talking about advanced sales is because this is seriously the only thing that the media has at this point. They don't have anything else. They do not have, overall positive buzz. Because if they try and say, social media, we looked at Twitter and we see all this positive buzz, you can see more buzz about Captain Marvel that is not nearly as positive, that is pointing out saying, no, this thing has a lot of flaws, I have no plans to see it. So they can't talk about it, they cannot argue or go at that level. It doesn't work for them. Literally the only place, the only area in which they can actually make a point, the only area in which they can actually say anything is indeed in advanced ticket sales. The problem, though, is that is a false argument, because advanced ticket sales do not account for one very important thing, and I've indicated it in several previous videos, but I really want to talk about a lot today, and that is on the day ticket sales. Pre-sales in general, if a movie is getting a lot of buzz for it, if a movie, there's a lot of hype for it, people are excited for it. For example, let's go back to Infinity War. Infinity War, obviously, seeing that it is indeed the highest grossing of the advanced ticket sales, the highest pace of advanced ticket sales ever in China, or at least from the MCU films. Captain Marvel is apparently right behind that. And then you look at what it did in China and you say, oh my gosh, it made a crap ton of money in China. But we have to ask the question, how much of that money came from pre-sales versus how much of that money came from on-the-day ticketing? As someone who worked at the box office, as someone who knows for a fact that most people in today's world still go buy tickets on the day they plan to go see it. So for example, let's say I want to go see Captain Marvel for some reason this coming Friday. I'm the person that would more likely be, or most people rather would be, I'm going to go to the actual theater itself, wait in line at the box office and buy, usually sometimes with cash too, to be able to pay for my ticket and go see the movie. That is just how most people do it, even though we've got all of these great apps, all these great websites to buy tickets well in advance, even though these studios are now allowing for pre-sales well in advance, which is the reason why you can still buy tickets to Captain Marvel, and it's the only movie you can buy tickets for at this point in time, is because they've been, on sale for a very long time. That does not account for, and that does not take into consideration how many people are actually going to show up on the day. In order to figure that out, you really have to understand how the film is being perceived by the general populace. Whenever you have a movie that for the most part has no controversies, has very positive buzz. There are no there's no scandals going on behind the scenes. Everything is pretty much positive. Everyone is excited for it. There really is no negative aspect to it. Then oftentimes what you see is that advanced ticket sales oftentimes lead to, if they're very high, if they're very successful in the pre-sales, well then it makes sense then that you would also have those same amount of people, or a similar percentage of people, if not more, showing up on the day to go to see the movie as well. The reason why you can't just use the pre-sale numbers, as Solo showed us, is that when you have a movie that might do well with the pre-sale crowd, meaning people who are already going to pre-buy their tickets, or possibly people who, upon hearing about a controversy and want to try and act like, oh no, there is no controversy, let's try and make sure and make it clear that that's not going to happen. Well, guess what? They're going to go ahead and buy pre-tickets, and they're going to try to say, oh look, the percentage is actually a little bit higher. The pre-sales are doing just fine. You could actually see studios themselves buying out theaters, buying out tickets to try and up that pre-sale number. This is not taken into account. Keep in mind with Captain Marvel, when it comes to this movie, maybe not so much in China, but in the United States, there are several campaigns to buy tickets, to basically have people donate to these campaigns to buy tickets to Captain Marvel. Some of these programs have upwards of $40,000 to $60,000, which is a pretty decent amount of the overall ticket sales, especially when you take into account the pre-sale market. So it actually almost in a way inflates those numbers automatically for this film. I don't think a lot of people have really thought about, these campaigns. These campaigns really aren't going to make a dent when you look at the overall total gross of the film. But pre-sales, seeing as I've just said, most of the tickets being purchased are being bought on the actual day that the movie comes out. It makes a lot of sense then that these so-called pre-sale figures are more likely than not bloated and very much out of proportion. It makes sense here. It made sense if you look back in retrospect with Solo Star Wars Story, seeing that people did not show up on the day and then definitely did not show up in week 2. And we see ourselves in a very similar situation with this movie. Now, it's here talking about China. The reason why I do not believe that this is going to be an indication of how well this does in China is because, as we have been told by many people from China, but also too by just looking at historical record, the Chinese audiences do not respond well to being preached to. They do not respond well to identity politics. We've seen them try it in movies before, and we've seen them try to release those films in China, and even just a smidge of controversy, even just the tiniest little bit of controversy, they will look at that and they will say, no, thank you, I will stay home. So yeah, you might have a record number of people going out, or almost a record number of people because it hasn't been Infinity War yet, going out to buy or pre-buy tickets to a movie, but that does not indicate how many people are actually going to show up on the actual day of the movie, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday. That is something that is very much up in the air. If you're going to try and tell me that Captain Marvel, with all of the backlash, with all of the controversy, with everything out there, with the countless numbers of videos and articles and just blatant words from the stars themselves that seem to indicate that everything that is we're saying about this movie seem to be accurate, I just cannot see for the life of me these pre-sales really meaning much of a damn thing at all. I mean, go ahead if you want to look back to the fact that, again, Infinity War is the one movie that it has not yet beaten yet when it comes to China. If you're going to try and tell me that that means that when you look to Infinity War making $359 million in China, if you're going to try and tell me that it's going to even get close to that number or be even 3/4 of that number, I'm sorry, but I'm going to call you out on that, because there is no chance in hell that this movie does as well. How do I know that? Well, for starters, this is a movie introducing a character that most people don't even know about. 2, this is a character that has been rebooted so many times in the comics and is so unpopular in the comics that they've had to reboot the character. So you're already starting off on a bad footing there with an unpopular character in the comics, someone that no one knows about. And what do we do know about this film? What are the Chinese audiences going to look to? What news articles are they going to see? What things are they watching on YouTube? Oh wait, that's right, they're going to see all the controversy surrounding this, all the stupid words that Brie Larson herself has said, and also the very directors of the film and how they're promoting it in the United States. They're going to be able to look at all these things and say, okay, never mind, I'm just going to stay home. So for anyone that's trying to say, oh man, it's doing so well, it's doing so incredibly well here, in the pre-sales in China, that means automatically that it's going to be a giant success. I'm sorry, but if you look to other films with similar categories, with similar mindsets, it just doesn't really match up. It just doesn't really work. If you're going to tell me that this movie is going to end up making more than what Aquaman did in China, or what any other major superhero film has done in China, I'm sorry, but you would just be foolish at this point. There was one article that said the other day that, it's on pace to match what, not Cecil, to match what it did for Civil War in China. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this might be possible depending on what the actual number is. But then when you look at the number, you say $180 million. No, there's just no way. Go back to what it did, what Wonder Woman was able to do in China. Barely around the $100 million mark. I just do not see this movie being more successful than Wonder Woman in China, because Wonder Woman did not have any controversy around it to this grand of a scale. It did not have the same level of controversy as a soloist Star Wars story did, which did even worse here. It only made about 40 million tops in China. Solo Star Wars story did. So basically what you have is a bunch of people trying to spin this narrative that this movie is going to be successful. And what's going to be interesting to me is this. There are two narratives that are going to come out of this week altogether, because it opens up in America and in China at the same time. Either one, it's going to be a bunch of racists decided to not support a bunch of sexists decided not to support this movie. That's going to be the first narrative. If the film does not nearly do as well, because look at how much they are beefing this film up. They're saying, oh my God, this is going to be the biggest film ever. They are trying to boost this film up, because you want to know why? It's these types of articles that make people think, hey, it's on comicbook.com, it's on theverge.com, it's on the Washington Post. That means that it must be an amazing movie. That means that it's got so much buzz. The pre-sales, oh, that means that I want to go see it. They are doing this because they know the kind of optic that this creates. They're doing this because they know that this kind of a buzz is what gets people going. However, what they're not accounting for is the number of people reading these articles and then calling them out and calling BS on them, like me and like so many other channels in the process. We are having a profound impact. The fact that you have channels like, Ethan Van Sciver, world-class BSers, you have Geeks and Gamers especially, making these videos that are getting like hundreds of thousands of views all together. The fact that all of these channels have over 100,000 subscribers tells me that there is going to be a wide range of people going into this saying, hey, I have no interest in seeing it because you have given me no reason to support this film. And I think that is going to have a major impact on the day sales. Sure, it's not going to affect the pre-sales, but as we've said before, the pre-sales, when everything is said and done, really do not matter, because the vast majority of any profit made on any given day is made on the day with on-the-day purchases, not on pre-sales. But anyway, guys, what's y'all's thoughts about this? Do you really think that it's going to do almost as well as Infinity War? Like, let's actually see what the numbers that they have here. It says when it comes to the Chinese box office, Captain Marvel is definitely going higher, further, faster. The eagerly anticipated film is beating every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie except Avengers Infinity War in advanced ticket sales in China. See how this is not just journalism here? This is absolutely an agenda. I mean, seriously, this website already in the first paragraph is already shilling for this movie being amazing, being fantastic. You know what's so interesting to me? How people like me, people like Jeremy, people like, all these other people who have gone after this film, been critical of this film, have been called out as racist and as sexist and said, you can't judge a film before it comes out. And yet you have these shill media articles coming out trying to say, oh my gosh, it's going to be the most anticipated film of all time, etc. And they're wording it in this way. And it's like, okay, so they can prop it up. You can prop up a movie. You can just, say whatever it is that you want about a movie as long as it's positive, but that's not spinning. But that's not judging a film before it's come out. But if any one of us says, hey, look to what this person has said, this doesn't look good. Or, hey, look at these trailers, these don't look good, and here's why. All of a sudden, we become problematic, but when they do it on the opposite side, again, you got to be consistent here. Consistency is a very big thing. Tracking for the Brie Larson starring superhero film is expected to bring in between 85 million and 95 million during its 3-day opening in China, which would put it on pace with Captain America Civil War. But it's the advanced ticket sales that are very impressive, and sales 76% higher than Spider-Man Homecoming and even 35% better than Civil War. Infinity War is the only film Captain Marvel hasn't beat in advanced ticket sales in China. So as you can see, just because there's a higher rate of people buying tickets in any given market, in any given region, does not mean that it is going to overall reflect what the movie actually makes. Let's just go ahead and try and do some simple math here. So it says it's doing 76% better than Spider-Man Homecoming and 35% better than Civil War. Okay, well, we have Civil War opened up right here and we know the box office number. Let's go ahead and look to Spider-Man. Let's see what Spider-Man Homecoming did. Keep those percentages in mind. Does this indeed have That's Far From Home? That's going to be coming out later this year. Anyways, let's get the actual one coming up. Oh, why didn't you go back to the right page? Come on, there we go. Spider-Man Homecoming. That's going to, when you do it live, folks, when you do it live. But here, China, $116 million. Okay, this one was $180 million. So what you're seeing here is you're saying it's doing 76% better than Spider-Man Homecoming, 35% better than Civil War. That would seem to indicate that Civil War did significantly better than Spider-Man Homecoming did, and yet by the end of it, what you really see is you see about a $60 million difference. Now, you're not really seeing that work out percentage-wise here with the 76% versus the 35%, because remember, you're not just talking about those two numbers. You're saying 76% better than this movie, 35% better than this movie, and it just really doesn't work overall. So what you're dealing with here, again, are pre-sale numbers, which for the most part are relatively consistent in being able to predict what a film is going to make overall. However, when you have controversy, when you have backlash, which is what Captain Marvel has had for a long time now, ever since Brie Larson decided to open her mouth and try and say that, oh no, the movies are only made for certain people, and if you're of a certain race or a certain age, whatever, you have no business in saying anything about this movie. Okay, all right, those same people you're going after are not going to go see it, because the pre-sales, while they might be an indicator, do not mean anything. The day of sales are what matter, which is why we're not going to really know anything. You can say, oh my gosh, it's projected to make, they're saying it's going to make between 85 and 95 million in its 3-day opening in China. I'll believe it when I see it. When we actually start getting those numbers in next weekend, we'll be able to know for sure whether or not there was backlash against this film, how much effect that backlash had on the film, and also where the media is going to go. Because it's only going to be one of two ways. Either one, oh, the trolls were wrong, the trolls failed, etc. They have no power. Or two, oh my gosh, there were a bunch of white racist sexists who drove this film into the ground. Those are the two narratives, because instead of them just, focusing on the truth, focusing just on the numbers themselves, they have to opine with every single thing they do. But guys, seriously, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.